If you're looking for clear, pro-life thinking, cutting-edge apologetics, and a fresh approach to abortion dialogue, you've come to the right place. This is the Equipped for Life podcast.
Hey, welcome to the Equipped for Life podcast. This is Josh Brom, and I just wanted to kind of introduce, this is a different kind of an episode and just wanted to let you know what this is. So in the last couple of months, we filmed this really cool live event that we kind of jokingly called the ERI Pajama Gala. It was our first online fundraising event that we've ever had, and it had to be virtual because of COVID. And so we pre-filmed everything, and we just kind of had this big event where we wanted to let people know what we're doing, and of course also ask them to financially support us. And one of the things that we did for that was we flew Emily Albrecht in so that we could record an interview with her and kind of talking about her story as well as what she's going to be doing here moving forward as he comes on staff. And then we also recorded a podcast with her. That was the one that we've already released, the one of us talking about that HBO pro-choice movie, Unpregnant. When I was editing the Pajama Gala, we ended up editing about half of Emily's interview out just for the sake of time. And so I thought what would be fun was kind of as our last podcast of the year is to play for you the extended version of this interview. Just as a reminder of here is one of the most awesome campus club stories that we have ever been aware of. This is our Rockstar Club, the club that we are so excited about. There are other clubs that we love. Okay, just don't hear me saying that we don't care about you if you're, the University of Michigan club. We love you too. But there's just something really special about this club. And it's exciting to hear what can happen when you have a club that has several really dedicated leaders go through really good apologetics training, and then take the time to go apply that in a bunch of outreaches. And you'll get to hear about how the culture at St. Olaf College has completely changed as a result of this club. I hope that also, if you're into ERI, if you're excited about ERI, I hope that you're excited to hear, Emily is basically Rachel's replacement. She's going to be coming on. She's already in support raising mode. And after she graduates next year, she'll be coming on full time as a co-host of this podcast, as a speaker, as a writer. And she'll also be coaching clubs to try to help clubs to be able to do the same kinds of things that St. Olaf did. And so there's kind of a bunch of things here for you to just feel positive about. Not only has this club just been a rock star, but also Emily is coming on and she's just going to take ERI to the next level. So I hope that you enjoy this extended version of the interview that I did with Emily. And if you didn't get a chance to see the Pajama Gala, it is still live. We've kind of kept the replay live. And so I'm going to put a link in the description where you can register and get instant access to that event. And if you do that, you're going to get an update from me on how ERI is going. You get to hear all the behind-the-scenes metrics of this year, the metrics that are up, the 2 metrics that are down, and why. I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to go watch the event. You get to hear some testimonies from our students, not just Emily, but a bunch of other students who have been really helped by ERI. You get a really awesome update from Jacob on Sidewalk Counseling and this group in Atlanta that has been saving lives all over the place. And you also get to watch the primary lesson of the new Equal Rights Argument module that we just published in the Equipped for Life course. So if you don't have access to the Equipped for Life course and you want to see the main lesson of this new module, I have also put that in the Pajama Gala. So even if you don't want to donate to Equal Rights Institute, there's a bunch of things in there that you can still take away just as our gift to you. But of course, it is end of year, and I would just like to ask all of you if this podcast has been helpful for you, or if you are excited about the work that we are doing to help the pro-life movement to become more gracious, to become more effective, to make better arguments. We could really use your help this fundraising season. And so as you're considering the nonprofits that you will support, I hope that you will keep us in mind and prayerfully consider supporting us or increasing your support if you are already one of our generous donors. Okay, that's all I'll say about that. Roll the interview. Well, Emily, it is so good to finally have you in the studio. This is just really exciting. So I know that some of our people haven't heard your story yet. I know we made a video at St. Olaf like last year, and we put it out and some people heard about it. And everyone that I talked to about you guys just were so excited. But for those who haven't heard your story, it's a really cool story. And so kind of before we get to why we've hired you, I think it's going to become pretty evident as people hear the story. Let's kind of start at the beginning. So talk a little bit about how you came to be pro-life, how you came to end up doing pro-life work at St. Olaf, all of that.
Sure. So I grew up Catholic and grew up pro-life, but I didn't really get very involved in the pro-life movement. Like there was a pro-life group at my high school, but I didn't really see that there was much that I personally could do. I mean, I went to a Catholic high school. They went to the March for Life, but that was kind of the extent of what they did. And so I felt like I didn't really have a place to do anything. And so it wasn't on the top of my priority list, certainly. I was way more focused on school. And then I got to St. Olaf College, and the fall of my freshman year, like, I knew that college was going to be a place where my beliefs were challenged, but I was still pretty naive and didn't realize quite what I was getting myself into.
Oh, no.
So when I got to St. Olaf that fall, I immediately realized that being pro-life at St. Olaf was very not the popular thing to be. And I really struggled to find friends that followed my belief system and to feel like I could talk about the things that I believed in, even in classes. I mean, I had heard this story from one of my first friends about the fall before. Our local pregnancy resource center, which is wonderful, the Northfield Women's Center. They're fantastic.
They are awesome.
They're
I know
so
them now
awesome.
too. They are really, really great.
But they hosted their annual fundraising banquet on the St. Olaf campus. And as you might imagine, St. Olaf students were not too thrilled that the college was letting that happen.
Not happy, Bob.
No. So they actually staged a huge protest at St. Olaf trying to stop this banquet from happening. And the next 2 years, the Northfield Women's Center was forced out of St. Olaf and into a different location. They also had to move the location of their building downtown because so many students in our town were really angry about what was happening. So, we have a 2-college town. And so our town is really small, and there's 2 colleges, and both of them don't have a great perception, shall I say, of the Northfield Women's Center.
So is there like a pro-choice club? Like who made that protest happen?
Yes, we have a pro-choice club on campus. They're called Students for Reproductive Rights. And they're pretty small in, like, maybe they're really active members. I think they have about 20, 25 active members. But almost the whole campus is behind them. So when they organized a protest, they would put it out on social media. And they had tons of students who maybe weren't directly involved in Students for Reproductive Rights, but they would come to the protest.
To support.
And so the protest turnout on campus was very large. And then the next year when the Northfield Women's Center moved the banquet off campus, they still were able to organize students to go downtown and, like, drive or walk because they were that interested in wanting to make sure
they weren't satisfied that they were now not doing the thing on campus.
Right.
They're somewhere else. They're like, we're going to go protest that now.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, both protests were peaceful. Nothing horribly bad happened, but I spoke with a lot of the donors that attended these banquets, and they felt really intimidated and saddened by the fact that so many students in the community were so against what this amazing resource is that we have. And so that's kind of what I walked into.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It was a lot. At the time, there really wasn't a pro-life group at St. Olaf. Like, we technically had one, but it was being single-handedly run by this one senior girl who was wonderful. Her name is Caroline, and she loves ERI. She follows ERI a lot now, so I'm positive that she's watching this.
Hello, Caroline.
But she was doing her best.
Yeah.
But kind of one-woman pro-life showing it at St. Olaf.
It's hard to do anything with one person.
Yes.
Like, especially in that kind of situation. Like, what are you going to do?
Exactly. So I first joined the club in January of my freshman year. That's kind of when I first learned about its existence. Okay. And I did so with my current co-president, Meredith. We had found each other and become friends, and we joined at the same time, and we dragged 2 more friends along with us. And so I remember the very first meeting we went to, Caroline was like over the moon because we had just like single-handedly quadrupled the size of her club from 1 to like 4,
There's
questionably 5.
Here.
Exactly. So we showed up and we decided we got to do something because this campus needs help, needs to hear this perspective. Yeah. And so we tried a few things, and honestly, none of it went terribly well.
Why?
We didn't really know what we were doing, to be perfectly honest. We knew that we needed to do something. Yeah. But we weren't really sure what would be effective. My biggest memory from that semester is when we put up a big hallway display. And it was specifically about the ways in which abortion is discriminatory towards different groups.
Can you explain to people what a hallway... I know what you mean, but what's a hallway display?
So a hallway display basically at St. Olaf means that any student organization can reserve a hallway in the student union, and you can put up a display for 1 week. So the hallway we always use, which is right next to the security camera, we choose it very carefully. It's basically a long hallway of windows.
Yeah.
So we can post anything we want on that huge hallway of windows. There's like 8 floor-to-ceiling windows all the way across. And it's probably maybe 40 feet long.
Yeah.
And so we put up this hallway display, and it was vandalized 13 times in 1 week.
13 times.
13 times. And when I say vandalism...
Like twice a day.
Pretty much. When I say vandalism, like, that means the entire display is destroyed or just missing. Usually it was just missing. Like, we would walk by and there would just be holes on the display. I don't really know exactly why people chose to remove parts of it and not others. That seemed to be kind of arbitrary, but like there would just be posters entirely missing. Or we would find a lot of them on the floor, crumpled, walked on.
Yeah.
No one ever wrote on it. I'm not really sure why, but it was just the case of the disappearing posters. So we'd take pictures every time, and I would submit these reports to the college saying that we had our things vandalized, and my reports just kind of went into a black hole. Like, I don't really know if anyone read them. I don't know what happened to them.
But they didn't do anything.
Nothing happened. I never heard from anyone.
Even though you reserved the space, you had the right to have your stuff up.
Yes. Yes. And so that was really frustrating. We felt like we were very unsupported by the administration, and the students were very against us.
Must have felt really lonely. It's like 4 or 5 students against the world at that point. Like, what are you going to do?
Exactly. So we got to the end of the year, and really that was our mentality. Caroline graduated, and so the remaining 4 of us took over running the club by default because there was no one else.
This is all you.
And so we go into the summer and we're like, okay, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
We need to make this club better. We want to grow the club. We want to be making an impact on campus. But everything we've tried has failed pretty epically. And so how are we going to fix this problem?
Yeah.
And it was one day in the middle of, I think, July, that I got the email that literally changed my life. It was an email from the outreach coordinator at the Northfield Women's Center. And she had just discovered Equal Rights Institute. Not really sure how she discovered you guys. I think she was just like around on social media, and she stumbled across the Equip for Life course. And so she decided that she was going to purchase a subscription to the Equip for Life course for all of the volunteers and staff members at the Northfield Women's Center to go through. And she had gotten my contact information as the new president of our pro-life club. And so she emailed me and said, hey, do you want to go through this course as well? We'd be happy to, upgrade our subscription and have a couple more spots, and you could take it.
That's so sweet.
I know. And so we decided to take her up on it because, it's free. Like, why would you not?
What college student turns down free stuff?
Exactly. So we took the course that summer, and really quickly, I'd say within the first maybe 3 videos, we all realized that this was going to be a game changer for our club, for how we could operate on campus. Because all of these students that were vandalizing our display and protesting, they weren't able to directly engage with us. And we needed to figure out a way to actually talk to them, to understand where they were coming from, to have them understand where we're coming from. We could not possibly change the campus culture and have students respect our club unless we were actually engaging with them.
Hallway displays were clearly not changing emotive minds.
Exactly. And so it was really, really important for us to start doing outreach. As soon as we learned about your materials, we were like, oh my gosh, this might work. This actually might work. And so the 4 of us took the course and we started doing outreach in the fall. And fast forward, my club has now grown to pretty much 5 times its original size. When I kind of first started, we had those 4 people. Now our average meeting, we get about 20 students, and we have about 65 on our email list.
Pretty good for a pro-life college club.
Yes, at a 3,000 person campus.
Yeah.
It's a small campus,
campus.
It's fantastic. I can't comprehend how I even got to see that change in my time at St. Olaf.
How often are you guys doing outreach?
Well, right now during COVID, obviously it's a little different.
Were you?
Yes. Were we? We were trying to do outreach about twice a month.
That's great.
All of my junior year. So sophomore year is kind of when we got started. We started doing outreach. We started gaining members. We started engaging more and more with pro-choice students because the more students saw us tabling, the more they were interested in coming to see us, or the more they were angry enough to want to come see us. I don't really know, but I think it was mostly probably the latter.
That's interesting. So they wouldn't always talk to you the first time. They had to see you consistently. And then maybe the fourth, fifth, sixth time they saw you, it's like, fine, I'm going to go talk to them now.
Yes, absolutely. Even sometimes in the same day. Like, one of my favorite things to do is, like, sit on the outreach table, and I can just watch these students, and they'll just go this way. And then they'll come back that way, like 2 minutes later. And then they'll go back that way again. And I'm like, after you've done it twice, like, you could be going that way and then, like, realize you forgot something and go back. But after the fourth time, I'm like, what's going on over there? Right. And you can just see them slowly getting closer and getting more interested / infuriated that they just have to. They can't take it anymore. They have to come talk to us. And the more they would see us week after week, the more and more students also became interested in coming to speak to us. And so by the time we got to my junior year and we were doing outreach very regularly, and we had grown to where, you know, Meredith and I weren't the only two people that were doing the outreach. We had more students that were trained and were starting to do these dialogues. We started seeing this dramatic transformation in how the students on our campus were viewing our club.
Wow.
I mean, today, we rarely get vandalism.
Really?
It's incredibly rare. Now, it's kind of ironic because I did actually just have a vandalism on Tuesday of this past week. That was my first vandalism in like 8 months.
Yeah, that's
but
pretty
I
good.
did have one.
Yes.
But I should also say that my definition of vandalism has dramatically changed.
How so?
So before, my definition, right, was that like the entire display was destroyed, or at least large portions of it were missing.
Are gone.
Yes. Now, the display that we just had vandalized this week, I'd say there was about 65 different posters on this hallway.
65 posters?
Yes.
That's a lot of posters.
Yes. 2 of them went missing. And they weren't really even missing. They were just like on the floor.
On the floor.
That was it.
Wow.
Now, I could tell it had been ripped down because of the way the tape was ripped, but still, 2 posters out of 65.
Yeah.
And I submitted a report to the college. I submitted it at probably about 8 p.m. By like 10 p.m., I had an email back from administration, a personal email, saying, I am so sorry that your club is continuing to experience vandalism. I just want to let you know that I am speaking with the director of public safety. We're going to be looking at the security camera footage, and I'll get back to you if we know anything.
Wow.
The next morning, I get an email from the director of public safety and that same person on the administration letting me know that they had identified a person of interest from the security camera footage and they were speaking to them.
Wow. And that's been going on for a while. I mean, I've heard stories like that have been going on for the last, I mean, like the administration's really changed and how they, like, why do you think that is? Why are they taking vandalism against your stuff seriously now, but they weren't clearly a couple of years ago?
I think it all has to do with how we handle ourselves at outreach.
Really?
The fact that we've become more visible on campus, but not just visible in that like we're putting up displays all the time, but visible in that we're engaging with students and creating this academic environment of an exchange of ideas and a respect for people of different views. That's something that the administration takes very seriously. And I think they're also seeing the fact that students are starting to respect our club.
Talk about that a little bit.
When I first started doing outreach, I mean, there's always a learning curve to doing outreach, right?
Yes.
You're not amazing at it the first time you try it.
I was terrible at it for a while. Yes, I get that.
So when we first started doing outreach, I had a lot of struggles with how to end conversations. It was just a little awkward. But as we kept going on and doing it more and getting better and better at it, I cannot tell you how many of my conversations end with the pro-choice student saying something along the lines of, you know, I don't know if I agree with you guys, but I just want to say that I used to hate your club. And now I have so much respect for you guys. Like, I have honestly never heard such an articulate argument for the pro-life position. And
so cool.
You have given me so much to think about. And I'm going to go tell all my friends that they should come talk to you guys because
they're going to tell their friends they should come talk to you.
These are the people who hated, like, they're telling me, I used to hate your club. Like, it's a miracle if I walked by your table and didn't want to punch one of you. Someone actually said that to me, and I was like, I don't know how to take that, but okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you never punched one of us. Like, okay.
Wow.
So one of my favorite examples of an effect that I've seen happen on an individual pro-choice student was with a girl that I'll call Anna. And Anna came up to our outreach table and we talked for probably maybe like 45 minutes. I honestly don't really remember that much of what we talked about. I don't remember her as having like a really unique pro-choice view or something that was a really powerful conversation. It was kind of normal. And then I think she had to go to class. And so it just kind of ended very nonchalantly, and she just kind of walked off, and I promptly forgot about it and was focusing on other conversations. And about a month and a half later, I got a Facebook message from her. Like, she found me on Facebook, which oddly enough happens more than you would think. Like, students find me in the CAF, in the Cage, which is our coffee shop on campus, on Facebook. Like, people have tried to do follow-up before, and she was one of them. So she found me on Facebook, and Facebook messaged me asking if she could interview me, because she was actually doing a paper for a class, and she was supposed to interview someone who had like an interesting view that maybe she didn't agree with. And she was wondering if she could follow up with me after our conversation at the table. And of course, I was like, yeah, of course, not a problem at all. So we scheduled a time and we got coffee, and we probably talked for maybe 2 hours. And the first thing that I remember coming out of her mouth when we sat down was, I cannot stop thinking about that argument you made to me.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, I was not expecting that at all. I don't even remember what argument I made to her. I don't even remember like what her original thing was when she first came up to the table. But she had been so impacted by what I had said that she had not been able to stop thinking about it for like a month and a half.
Wow.
And so she had wanted to follow up on this, yes, for her paper, but also because she had more questions.
Yeah.
And she had been so fascinated that she just couldn't help herself from coming to talk to me again. And so we talked for like 2 hours after that. And we went through a lot of different pro-choice arguments, but I could tell she wasn't really totally convinced by a lot of them. She was just bringing them up because she had heard other people make them. And she wanted to make sure that she had a handle on all these arguments. So we talked and talked and talked, and we got to the end of the conversation, and she kind of sat back in her chair and went, I don't believe I'm saying this, but I think I have to be pro-life now. Like, I cannot come up with a single response to anything you've said today.
Wow.
That was really my first experience with someone changing their mind like that in front of my face. And it was really inspiring to me to talk to her and help her talk through that, and to talk with her afterwards, and really see what an impact these kinds of conversations can have on individual students, not just the campus culture as a whole.
Wow. So things are going a lot better at that point. Now, I want to kind of bring it back to Northfield Women's Center. Like, they had gotten so protested, they couldn't do their events on campus anymore. They're even getting protested at other events. What happened with them? Were they ever able to come back onto campus?
Yes, they actually were. So last year, my junior year, they held their annual fundraising banquet back on the St. Olaf campus. And I had my whole club there volunteering. I had a lot of my newer members were helping in the photo booth, helping in the actual banquet itself. And my most experienced dialoguers were all set up to basically be hallway escorts. So we were going to help guide the donors into the event, chat with them.
There's protesters around.
Exactly.
Kind of,
The real purpose was so that we would be there in order to help them through the protesters, and if necessary or if possible, actually engage with some of the protesters and help to de-escalate that situation by engaging them in dialogue, if that was going to be possible.
And were there protesters?
No.
Zero protesters?
Zero protesters.
Wow.
I was shocked. I did not think that. I knew that we were changing the campus culture and things were happening, but I did not honestly believe that this event would have zero protesters.
So what has happened? Is it like, I mean, when I hear that, like, my reaction is to think like the pro-choice students who are still pro-choice are just so deflated at this point that they just like don't want to get out of bed to like go like protest a resource center. What is happening? I
think that you're exactly right. I think that the students have become really deflated in their pro-choice views. I mean, I think there are still a lot of pro-choice students on my campus. Like, I don't by any means think that I've managed to convert an entire 3,000-person campus in 2 years. There's no way that happened. But we have become so respected on the campus that I think students are afraid to publicly oppose us. Like, maybe a student's still willing to tear down one poster on our display. When no one's looking. When no one's looking, exactly. But I don't think that students are willing to publicly go against us at an event where they know we're going to be. Yeah. And so I think that just the fact that we've become respected, and they're also seeing administration respect us and actually do things when students will, tear down our things or discriminate against us in some way.
Yeah.
I think that has caused a lot of the pro-choice students to not want to be as bold in their moves when they're on campus.
Yeah.
So there was this one time that I was actually in an education class and I was sitting kind of in the back of this lecture room. And I overheard a student a couple rows in front of me talking about how frustrating it was to them that so many liberal students on campus aren't willing to engage with other students that have different views from them. Now, she was a self-proclaimed liberal student, but she was saying that she thought that didn't make much sense. Like, college is a place where you're supposed to engage with other people.
Yeah.
And she wasn't seeing that happening on campus, and that was frustrating to her. And then this girl next to her piped up and said, I think you're right. I'm really frustrated about that too. But have you seen the pro-life group that tables against abortion on campus? Because I think that they're exactly what you're looking for. Like, they're the kind of people that we need more of. They're engaging with students in this really respectful and amazing way. And, I'm pro-choice. I don't agree with them, but I think what they're doing is really awesome. And we need more clubs like them on this campus.
See, that's so cool for me to hear, because I feel like I spent most of basically 2020 trying to say, civil discourse is at an all-time low. This is everything's on fire, and we need to get both sides. It's not just about pro-choice people need to be more open-minded and make better. It's we all need to be more open-minded and have better conversations together and try to find truth together. And it seems like these pro-choice students are getting that all on their own just by watching you guys. So there's been this huge culture shift on your campus in only 2 years. This is a really remarkable thing. So if you had to boil down how that happened down to 1 or 2 or 3 things, what are those things? Because I know that there are a lot of other pro-life people, whether they're student clubs or whether they are, maybe pro-life chapters that are trying to make a difference in their city or whatever, that want to see something like that happen for them. What is it? What's the recipe?
I think it's a combination of the relational part of the apologetics and also just a lot of hard work. I mean, first of all, you can make the best arguments in the world when you're talking to people, but if you're not doing it in a way that makes the other person feel safe and open to changing their mind, you're not going to make any headway.
Yeah.
And my club really focuses on that a lot. When we do our outreach tables, we focus a lot on body language, how we look when we're doing the outreach. I mean, my favorite thing to do is I like to sit in the corner of the outreach table and chat with students that way. And it really breaks down this kind of debate mentality. When I'm just casually sitting with my leg crossed in the corner, we can just have this normal conversation. They feel so much more welcomed and non-threatening in my personality. And I think my whole club's mentality is that we need to create an environment where the other student feels like we respect them, we want to understand them, we're asking good clarification questions. And that really breaks down the stereotypes that pro-choice students have about who pro-lifers are in their minds. Yeah. And I think as a result, the students at our campus are really just fascinated by our club and fascinated by me and what we do. Yeah. Because we don't fit what they see on television. We don't fit what they see in the media for how these dialogues are supposed to happen. And we don't fit the stereotype of pro-lifers. Yeah. And so I think that that's made a really huge difference. And it's also, honestly, a lot of hard work. I mean, you need to take the course. The Equip for Life course is an invaluable tool. We also need to get some practice doing it. And so to say that my first outreach was amazing would be very much so a lie. We made a lot of mistakes in our first few outreaches, but we kept doing it and we kept debriefing with each other and also doing practice dialogues. That's something that my club focuses on a lot. We usually end every single meeting with some sort of practice dialogues on whatever topic that we had just done. And having students be pro-choice, first of all, is really valuable. That's often how our club members start. If you're first coming into our club, we'll have you play pro-choice for sometimes even several meetings in a row before you ever try playing pro-life on the same argument that you've been hearing the pro-lifer make. You've gotten so many chances to hear it, first of all, but then you also have gotten the chance to feel what it feels like to be in a pro-choice person's shoes. Am I feeling listened to? Am I feeling respected? Do I feel that relational part of the dialogue that's so important? And so once we've done that, then they can transition and try to be pro-life and giving those arguments. Yeah. And we have a very open environment where we critique each other doing dialogues all the time.
Nice.
I mean, Meredith and I are kind of the expert dialoguers right now, but we take...
You're the Simon Cowells.
Yeah. Yes. But we encourage the club to critique us all the time. And
That's great.
Sometimes if we are, let's say, teaching a new tool for the first time, Meredith and I will do a public practice dialogue in front of everyone. It'll just be super abbreviated. It'll be like on a specific thing.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'm playing pro-life. And I think I did a pretty good job because I've done this before. But all of my club members, even the newest ones, I'm like, tell me, give me feedback. I want you to assume that I'm not this great at this. Cool. And they get so much even personal feedback from having watched me and having to give me feedback that gives them so many ideas about how they can incorporate those elements in their own dialogues.
So when I got to go and do outreach with your club, I had this very unique experience. It was an experience that I had never, ever had doing outreach with any other club that we've done since starting ERI, which was, and I spent most of that time listening. I talked to like a couple of pro-choice people, but mostly you guys had enough people there. And they were just like in the conversations, and I'm just kind of like listening in, and then maybe doing like these little like coaching sessions, mentoring sessions, like after, like, what should I say about this? And then we talk about that. But like, I mainly was like listening, and I was just so blown away because there's like, these kids are as good at dialogue as we are. Like they have so mastered the art of dialogue, not just the practical dialogue tips, but that too, that your body language, the ways that you're asking questions, the open-minded ease that you're speaking, like all of that is so good. And you'd also had nailed all the hardest philosophical arguments that we have ever taught. And I'm listening and I'm like, I could hire any one of these dang kids. They could all be on our staff. Like I told our team later that day, it's like, I can take feedback from them. If they tell us, hey, an argument that you teach isn't working as well for us anymore because, something's changed. I can take that as seriously as if Tim or Rachel or Jacob or anyone had said, hey, this argument's not working anymore. Because I know that if you're having a problem with an argument, it's not because you guys are coming across as obnoxious or like something else is kind of fouling up that test. It's like, no, you were so good. And I told the team, like, I could hire any one of them. And I made good on that. Because when Rachel resigned and decided to kind of move on and do other things with her life, I was stuck left thinking like, okay, what do I do now? We really need another content person. And I could only think of one person in the entire world that could take her place. And that was you. And so, and we don't have time to go through the whole story, but you are now our newest team member.
Yes, I am.
You've been hired. I couldn't believe it. I really didn't think you were going to say yes. But I tested you first. I didn't tell you I was testing you, but I tested you first in a brainstorm session, and you did so well. I was like, okay, cool. Like that last, I was just kind of, would that work? And that worked really well. And I kind of told you, hey, no one knows it, but we've lost a staff person, and I'm looking for someone who could come on board, and just not thinking it would work out because you're this vocal music education major, like you're this amazing singer, amazing pianist. You do these choir performances on PBS and all these things. Like that was the track you were on, the trajectory for your life. And I just couldn't believe it when a couple of weeks later you accepted the job. Like my jaw just about hit the floor. It's like, oh my gosh. So now what I've been explaining to our donors, like, and a lot of people ask, like, how are things going now that Rachel's gone and we're hyper understaffed? And it's like, it's really hard. I'm in this long dark tunnel of being hyper understaffed, but there's this beautiful saturated light at the end of the tunnel that Emily is going to finish some fort raising, and by hopefully next summer can join the team and be doing podcasts a lot. I hope people can tell that we would podcast well together. Going to be one of our speakers. So I don't have to be the only speaker for ERI, which will be amazing. You'll be writing articles for us. Like there's all these really cool, and you're going to be coaching clubs on how to do on their campuses the culture shift that you guys were able to do at St. Olaf. So I hope people are super excited for what Emily is going to bring to the team because it has made me feel better about this whole situation. Yes, it's hard. Rachel was fantastic. There are certain things that Rachel is really good at that are not in your skill set, but then there's also things that are in your skill set that were never in Rachel or Tim's. And so it's not comparing one or the other. It's just you're bringing something really, really great that we need here. And I'm just so excited, and I can't wait for you to finish support raising and to be on the team full time so we can do a lot of stuff like this.
Thank you so much, Josh. I am so beyond excited to be joining the ERI staff. And I just want to say to all of the ERI supporters that I am one of the clubs that you have been helping to transform. I mean, you don't know me, you don't know my club, but you've gotten to hear a little bit about the amazing things that are happening at St. Olaf, and none of that would be possible without your financial support of ERI. ERI has truly changed everything about how we act as a pro-life club, and honestly, everything about the trajectory of my life. And I could not be more grateful to the Northfield Women's Center for introducing me to Equal Rights Institute and for you making Equal Rights Institute possible.
Thank you so much. So good to have you here, and I can't wait till you are on full time.
Thank you for listening to the Equipped for Life podcast, a project of Equal Rights Institute. Equal Rights Institute uses speaking, writing, YouTube videos, podcasts, online courses, and campus outreach to help pro-life advocates in the areas of practical dialogue tips, relational apologetics, pro-life philosophy, and sidewalk counseling. If you've been helped by this podcast, please consider supporting it by making a donation at equalrightsinstitute.com.